I'll just follow up with the same question I asked Brian, I guess, in some ways. But as you look at that cornerback position, what do you feel like this defense needs to accomplish during this week, heading into another week of game? Is there something specific about this week that you can do to help Denzel and Cam and those other guys just raise that level of play?
Yeah, Coach mentioned it. You want to make practice as game-like as possible. We have, the best receiving core in the country, so you have to balance, and that's what Coach Day does a great job of, balance how many reps to get. We'd like as many reps as possible. I mean, I would, but, there's got to be a limit because you want to avoid injury and all that too. But, creating as many competitive situations as we can for those guys so that they can get better. But, ultimately their production on game day is my responsibility, right? So if we're taking shots at that position, I have to look at myself too and say, well, are we showing our hand too much? Am I giving those guys every chance to be successful through disguise and coverage variation? So, that's my responsibility and something we'll look at hard over the bye week.
Deep right field, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Rowe.
Jim, when you look at the way that your defensive line is playing, how much can they continue to help when the cornerbacks are kind of going through, I guess, in the back half of the year? It seems like if you have a better defensive line, obviously that it helps the corners out, but the way they're playing right now just seems at a different level.
Yeah, so, I say coverage and rush. They defense responds working together. So it's a group effort, and our front is productive and strong and attacking and confident, and that helps the coverage. And it's all working together, right? It's my job to make sure that quarterback holds the ball for that extra split second, so that he can't be decisive about the coverage that we're in, and that leads to more production up front, and it's better for everybody. But as much as we can keep those guys going and fresh and attacking the line of scrimmage and the quarterback, our coverage will continue to be better.
For the right, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Jim, kind of off that, with how good the defensive line has played, I guess it's just saying you were able to rush for a decent amount and still get pressure. How does that change kind of your mentality as a play caller? Decide, I want to blitz here, disguise a blitz, or play coverage with how well the safeties and linebackers are playing this game?
Yeah, it's everything, right? If you're creating pressure without bringing extra guys into the mix, then it gives you a lot more options in terms of the coverage and looks and things that you're able to do at the line of scrimmage, pre-snap and post-snap. So as the competition gets more intense, we need to be able to have the ability to bring pressure, to add guys into the rush. And you've seen it a little bit, but we have a much larger arsenal, I guess, than we have displayed, because our front is doing a great job of getting that pressure on the quarterback without bringing extra guys.
Right next door, Tony Gervin, Buckeye Huddle.
Jim, I think a lot of college safeties would just be getting back now from a broken leg in the Rose Bowl. Given how Lathan Ransom has played to this point, how surprised are you that he's done so well, and just how well is he playing right now?
Yeah, everything that Lathan does on the field is a bonus in my mind, because we did not have, from the time I arrived, I didn't have him out there, and he just shows up. He's the guy that jumps off the video. He's the guy that during the game, as I'm watching it from my vantage point, shows up in all the right places, and he's decisive. So credit to him, and he loves to play football, and I think for a guy to come back from that significant injury is really a good story to tell.
Right in front of him, Doug Maurice, Cleveland.com.
Jim, what is your process when deciding how many reps a guy is going to get in the game between the position coach, yourself, maybe even Ryan is involved in that. How do you work that out and sort of who has the greatest say there? And then whenever you're maybe thinking about starting somebody new at a position, how serious of a decision is that? Is it just, hey, the guy who can help us win the most is who's going to play? Or is there any hesitation of maybe taking a guy out of the starting lineup and putting somebody new in?
I think it's always you have to know your players, you know, and if a guy's battling for a position and it's back and forth and you know, not that much needs to be said. Those kind of battles, they happen, you know. One guy's on the rise, you know, just playing better. But I think if it's a drastic change, you have to make sure that, you know, we do, you know, that the players are aware of it, the parents, the whole group, everybody, from Coach Day on down. We're very sensitive to that, to make sure that, because guys put a lot of work into this life that they lead. So it's our job to be up front with them. So different situations, right? I mean, if it's a close battle back and forth week to week, you know, not much needs to be said. When it comes to reps, yeah, I think, you know, most of the time that goes to the position coach. I mean, that's ultimately a position coach's responsibility, but Coach Day will weigh in, or I'll weigh in if we think there's a need to. But I mean, we have a lot of great coaches, so they really manage that. When you create a group of like, these guys are game ready, you know, that's like, these guys are game ready, and that's what we talk about. Who's game ready? You know, once a guy is deemed game ready, then really it becomes up to the position coach how they rotate him back and forth.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Jim, halfway through the regular season, you guys are ranked 7th in the country in total defense. What's maybe one thing you're really happy about with your defense, and maybe one thing that you're like, we've got to get better at this?
Yeah, I'm pleased with where we're at in the run game. We can be better, but I'm just pleased in the way we're fitting things and the way that we're playing fast. Guys seem to know the scheme and where they fit and where the ball's going to come out. You know, you feel good about not getting creased. You know, guys are in the right places, which is always important, particularly with a new scheme. And then, you know, we third downs, right? I'm pleased with that. You know, I think in both the run game and third downs, we still have more that we can do. You know, we're just starting to approach the level that we want to be at, but there's more that we can do in those two areas. And then we got to be better at those 50-50 balls. I mean, that's just the reality of playing defense is you can play great all game and they can just toss a couple up in the air, and if you don't win them, you know, you give up a couple touchdowns, and that's the game we play, but we want to get better in that area.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Michael Hall Jr. had 2.5 sacked, I think, at only 7 snaps. First of all, how good is he? What's it like to have him on your defense, and why only 7 snaps?
Well, you know, he's coming off an injury. He's battling injury. He's fighting his way back, you know. Mike loves to play, so, you know, he comes in practice and maybe, you know, doesn't re-injure or doesn't feel great and then has to back off. So it's like a push-pull kind of thing. You're trying to get him those reps during the week. So we just thought it would be a good idea to ease him back into the lineup, someplace where he could just be aggressive, you know, and play fast. And, you know, that was the plan. His production for 7 plays is exceptional. You know, obviously we'd like to play him more, and he will as he gets healthier, but that was definitely the plan this week, and it worked out well.
Right next door, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, you mentioned, at least with Tommy, the way he picked up the defense, that middle linebacker spot was really advanced for somebody you've coached. Steele's the other guy starting with them, and somebody who didn't play a ton at the position until last year. What do you think of the way he was able to learn stuff this offseason and take it to the field through 6 games?
Yeah, Steele is he's just making continual progress all the time. Smart, enjoys playing, has picked things up well. I think what you're seeing in Tommy is advanced. I think he's really kind of not the norm, but Steele has picked it up at a sound pace and has become more and more productive as the weeks have gone on.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, I know you talked a lot before season about how, installing, kind of ramping that up over the course of the off season. Is there more stuff that you look to install this week during a bye week?
There are things that we've installed that we have not shown yet. So, we do that. I do that as I kind of think weeks in advance. So we want to be able to. I don't think it's best if you install something that week and put it in the game. I mean, sometimes you need to do that, but I'd much rather think ahead, and we've put things in now that you'll see in the upcoming weeks. So we'll continue that in the bye week. I don't think it'll be like, hey, let's download some more during this week because it's the bye week, but we try to stay a few weeks in advance. I do with my thinking, so we'll just continue at the same pace. It's working, and I definitely don't want to put more on the players.
Right in front of him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Following up on what Doug was asking a little bit, with Lathan and Josh specifically, I know you guys are teaching them everything, but everybody's natural skill sets are different. Can you just talk about the difference between what Lathan brings to that safety spot versus what Josh brings to that safety spot, and how that maybe shows up in the game?
Yeah. I feel like Lathan has some versatility in between the adjuster and the bandit position. I think he seems to be a guy who can be both strong side, weak side, fit the run pass, see the concepts, maybe in a broader spectrum. Josh is I think he's really good when he has a specific assignment and direction and is able to really just unleash and play fast. So Lathan plays bandit, and he can do that from a physical standpoint, but I think he also thinks and sees the game like an adjuster, more like Ronnie does, so that it's more versatility.
Fourth row left, Jacob Benz, The Lantern.
Yeah, hey Jim, take a look at you mentioned the linebackers there. To see Steel Chambers step up the way he has the second year as a starter, and you mentioned how smart he is intelligently. How does he step up as a leader on the practice field and in games as well? You see his production on the field, but as a leader as well, how does he around his teammates?
Steele is always a positive player, right? I guess that's his contribution from a leadership or mentality standpoint. He is a guy who doesn't let one play bleed into the next. If it didn't go well, he brings that attitude of next play attitude and vision towards being our best, rather than looking back when things don't go quite as well. And I think that helps him in his own game. Even during practice, when I try to be hard on him, he's developed a great mentality of just always looking forward. And I think that's, you want that in all your players. And sometimes we try to test them at practice to put them into that mode, so they can block it out when the time comes. And he brings that to the defense.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now and Sports Illustrated.
Hey Jim, you've made it really clear with us how high your standards are. You guys are playing opposite an offense that has exceeded at extremely high levels, whether it's in practice or on film. Do you sense that your defense plays with a certain level of freedom, knowing that the offense is going to score most times 40-plus points a game? I mean, does that help them play with a certain freedom or a certain aggression?
It's tough for me to answer. I mean, it'd be a good question for them, for our players, because I've never talked to them about that, because I kind of, it's my job to push the opposite. It's my job to prepare them. You know, we talk about making a stop on that play, on that series, no matter what the score is, and I have to drive that point home, you know, for when and if there's a time where it becomes more competitive. You know, I don't think that's something that a defense can just turn on all of a sudden and say, oh, we're in a close game. You know, we better pick it up. I don't think that's the way you create great defense. So I'm on them all the time, regardless of the score. But it'd be a good question for them. You know, I would think if I was a player, it certainly helps, you know, because our offense does so well. But I try to get them to just think about that series, no matter what the score is.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, these 50-50 catch situations, I know sometimes the guy just makes a good play. I think that might have happened on the Jaden Reed touchdown there. It was a nice catch by him. Outside of those plays where the offensive guy just makes a good play, what do you think is missing in those moments for your guys, whether it's, I don't know, getting your head around or physicalities? What are you harping on in those situations?
You know, we talk a lot about winning at the line of scrimmage. I think when you go back to some of the plays that haven't gone in our favor, you have to look back to the start of the play, and if we're in press coverage, and to make sure that we're throwing our best punch at the line of scrimmage, you know, because that helps the route down the road. And then, yeah, you know, it's all about where are you at on the field, what's your, you know, inside, outside, close to the sideline, close to the hash mark. You know, there are all kinds of coaching points that you can give. And, you know, it comes down to fitting what the player does best with the techniques. There are a lot of techniques, and our coaches are on top of all of them. But you have to kind of melt what's best for the player combined with the technique. And, you know, also the play call. Like I said, you know, you can talk about not making the play on the 50-50 ball, but I have to say, you guys don't have to if you don't want to, but I have to say, hey, what, you know, why is this guy incurring so many shots, right? I mean, what, you know, how do I need to disguise things better, change things up differently, so that doesn't happen, so offenses don't feel that they can do that. So I have to look back on at myself. So it's not just that split second at the top of the route. You know, it's football. There's a lot that goes into it, and practicing, and, you know, winning at the beginning of the play, throwing punches, and then the play call, and what's the quarterback seeing, what's the offensive coordinator seeing. You know, am I creating the best situation for that guy to be successful?
Got time for two more. Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals.
Jim, when you go back to that conversation with Lathan and Proc, is that one of the week-by-week, game-by-game battles that you're talking about that's ongoing, or was there something maybe specific to Michigan State that made Lathan a better fit for that one?
Yeah, it's week to week, right? I mean, again, we deem them both to be game ready. There's a lot that goes on during the week that you guys don't see, like who's banged up, who's practicing more, you know, guys a lot of times playing the games, but maybe they didn't practice quite as much or at the high speed of intensity because they were banged up during the week. So that all goes into it week by week, but they're both game ready.
And right next door, Tim May, Letterman Row.
This may sound a little goofy question, but I think a lot of the guys on your front four are playing extremely well in that rotation stuff. But has Micah Hall become sort of that, oh no, not that guy? You know, when you see him go in a game and stuff with the effort he has shown, obviously Saturday in 7 plays he put on an almost clinic of how to terrorize a quarterback. I mean, is it important to have a guy like that? I mean, that
You say, "Oh no, guy," when the other team looks at him.
the
you
other
mean-
team looks at him, "Oh, no."
I hope so. I hope so. But that's a good question for Coach Jay. I think he's up next. But I mean, I like to see Mike in there, yeah, because I know that for me it's the oh yes guy, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, okay, Mike's ready to go. Now that means any one-on-one matchups that we create through bluffs and different, to get him one-on-one, or the games that Coach Jay calls and things, that means that the probability for success is going to be high, which then goes back to, hey, helping our corners, like we said, in different disguises and things. So he does change the game for us, for sure.
Coach, thank you very much.